Brilliant. So welcome to our HubSpot AI for Education hub today. So we will be focusing on obviously AI, so content creation, personalization, and results. So our host today is our fantastic Ollie, who is our HubSpot CRM consultant here at HubGem, an AI lead, and I am Amy. I'm Amy Martos. I'm the senior marketing executive here, and I am purely here just kind of help in the background, dealing with the chat and any questions, and just helping Ollie out with any technical difficulties if needed. So yes, I will pass you straight on over to Ollie to get stuck in.
Thanks, Amy. So on today's agenda, then I'm just going to run through very quickly, as this is a mini hug, sort of some of the new AI tools that HubSpot launched at Inbound 2024. So we'll have a look at Copilot. We'll have a look at how we can use AI to help us with our customization, and we'll look at a couple of the agents that you may or may not have access to at the moment. So when we talk about AI with HubSpot, the sort of umbrella term for all of this is Breeze. That is what HubSpot has sort of dubbed all the different AI tools that they introduced. And Breeze covers sort of three main sections, really. Like I said, this was introduced at Inbound in 2024, and the features have begun to roll out in beta after that. But the three main areas include Copilot, which is like your virtual assistant, very much like a ChatGPT, where you can ask it questions about the data that you hold and it can retrieve some results for you. Then you've got agents, which are almost like team members that you can assign to sort of specific tasks that again will be largely automated with things like content creation and personalization. And then finally, you've got the intelligence suite of tools as well, which actually introduces a new type of payment model into HubSpot as well, with the use of tokens. And you can do things like spend tokens on form shortening or data enriching some of your company records, among other things. So that's kind of the overall suite of tools. Now let's dive straight into the first one, which is HubSpot's Copilot. Not to be confused with Microsoft Copilot. I'm surprised they got the access to use that name, but they are totally sort of separate tools. It does sort of work very much like a conversational chatbot would, like if you've used Google Gemini or OpenAI's ChatGPT. It is sort of a chat thread where you're giving prompts and questions, and it's giving you the results back. As with many of these tools at the moment, they are currently in beta. So some of them you might have to opt into, some of them you may see already in your account with the little beta tag. But of course, the more we use it, the more we can help HubSpot to improve these. And like I said, Copilot is very much like a virtual assistant. So it can help with anything from your admissions team queries, sort of digging through some of your data, or of course, also help towards some of your marketing goals as well. Now, Copilot can, of course, help prospective companies. It can help you generate content, and it can simply just help you complete routine tasks, among a lot of other things that we'll explore in a moment. But Copilot also does give you some control over what access it actually has to your account and what data you kind of allow it to see. So we'll have a look in the settings at kind of what you can do with that in a moment. So in terms of how to actually access and use Copilot, we'll go into the settings in a moment and have a look how to turn it on, first of all, if it's not already in your account. But you can access Copilot pretty much anywhere in HubSpot where you can have access to the sort of top navigation bar that I'm sure you're familiar with within your HubSpot accounts, or anywhere where you see the little diamond logo as well, just representing there's an AI feature there that Copilot can help you with. So when you actually want to start using Copilot, you want to give it a task or some sort of instruction, you need to be sort of aware of how to use what we call prompts. Now, prompts are ultimately the best way to achieve results with Copilot. They're very sort of standard ways of kind of communicating in the chat field with Copilot. But the great thing is HubSpot actually gives you a lot of these prompts, if not all of them actually. So you can quickly select from them, and then of course, once you remember them, you can use them naturally within your sort of prompts that you type out in the chat window. Once you have selected that prompt, or you've remembered and used that prompt, HubSpot will actually fill out most of the detail in the box for you, and you'll only have to go in and sort of enter the information in some of the highlighted spaces where you need to give it some sort of detail, or actually give it the instruction that you want it to use. But let's actually jump into a demo and have a look at some of these things inside of HubSpot itself. So hopefully you can all see a HubSpot screen now that I've switched over to. What you will notice in the sort of top right hand side of your taskbar is the Copilot logo. If you don't have this, then we'll dig into the settings and have a look how you can sort of activate this. So we'll jump straight into the settings just using the cog on your taskbar. And then on the left side, you'll see there is a settings page you may not have seen yet called AI. And when we click into that, that's when we come to the access tab that we saw on the slides a moment ago, where you can define, first of all, actually giving HubSpot access to use Copilot. And then above that, you'll actually see the sort of the various different areas where you can restrict access to what data Copilot can actually see. So to ultimately use Copilot, you just need to toggle on the give users access to Copilot. That will then give you the sort of Copilot logo in the taskbar. But then if there were sort of certain areas of your account that you didn't want Copilot to kind of have access to, that's where you can actually begin to sort of toggle some of these toggles above. So you can firstly give users access to actually use the generative AI tools and features. So Copilot can still be there to sort of answer basic questions, but if you don't have this ticked, it won't be able to generate, for example, an AI image. What you've also then got is some sort of smaller or more detailed options here for including the actual data within your CRM. So that's things within your objects and properties, your customer conversion data as well. So that's when ultimately it can sort of go back and go through things like call transcript recording, emails, maybe chats you've had with them. And then finally also files data as well. So anywhere that you've got files stored within the files tool, potentially some of that might be sensitive and you don't want Copilot to have access to that, you've got the options to toggle those here. It is worth mentioning that this is sort of an all-inclusive HubSpot Copilot. It's not something you can use to search the web. It's not somewhere that a chat GPT could come into and actually influence. It is very much sort of self-contained within HubSpot. So if you're sort of worried about any sort of sensitive information, then you've got those available to you. But ultimately, you aren't sort of giving access to anything that's outside of HubSpot here. So now when we actually go back into sort of Copilot bar, that is where you kind of get the Copilot pop out here. So some of the basic sort of functionality at the top here, you can jump into any of your previous chats. So if you've previously sort of answered any questions or given some prompts and you actually just want to go back and do the same thing, you'll have all of your different lists of the previous sort of conversations that you've had. Otherwise, you can begin a brand new chat and you'll see a screen very similar to this one. What it will do is give you some example prompts here sort of in the middle. So the prompts, as we sort of explored in the slides, are kind of the best way to communicate with Copilot. But there are a lot of additional ones here as well, and you can find those just by going into see more prompts. This will then take you into the list of kind of just everything that Copilot can actually do. And it splits these up into things it can generate, things it can summarize, research, reporting, adding something to one of your objects, or just searching sort of how-to HubSpot articles. And then finally, there are a couple of options for helping you sort of prepare for any sort of meetings or calls with your prospective clients. For each one, there are also additional options you can drop into. So for generate here, we've got sort of the first three, but you can click on show more, and then you get the full list of kind of all the things it can generate here. So drafting emails to leads, creating a meta description for a landing page, generating some blog ideas and titles for you, and a whole host of other things. So what you'll actually want to do here is once you've sort of found the instruction that you actually want to do, you can come in, of course, and just simply click on any of these individual things. So you might want to go ahead and generate an image. Maybe you're doing a knowledge-based article and you'd like a subtitle. You can even ask it to help you with single object workflows as well. So if we just want to go ahead, perhaps create a list, we just click on that particular prompt. It then puts in all of the sort of information that we need, and then it'll give you some areas to actually go ahead and decide on kind of what list do you want to do here. So we'll go ahead and we'll just say we want to create a list of contacts. So that's now dropped in to the prompt. And then perhaps we want to just say that were created last week. So the prompt is complete. We'll hit enter. As you can see, your message is then in the sort of chat window. Copilot will go ahead and do its thing and ultimately create whatever it is that we sort of asked it to do. Of course, depending on the task, this can take sort of a bit longer, or of course, it can be quite a quick thing. And there you go. we've now gone ahead and it's gone ahead and created our list for us here. As you can see, it sort of shows you the filter that it's created. So create date is less than 7 days ago, as we asked for contacts created within the last week. And if that is sort of suitable, if you agree that that filter achieves what you want to do, you can then go ahead and create that list in HubSpot. What we'll do is go back into some of the other prompts as well. So you can go ahead into the Summarize tab, and this is where you can actually start to have Copilot sort of dig out some of the detailed information around anything you hold on sort of contacts, companies, deals, tickets, articles, or campaigns here. So we can go in and say, actually, you know what, I want to know a bit more about one of my contacts. So within the same chat thread, or if you wanted to start a new one, you can. We've now pulled in the Summarize contact sort of instruction or prompt here. And all asking for here is to summarize the data for a contact's name. And when you begin typing, it will come up with suggestions. So if I find the contact that I want to summarize here, I can quickly check them. It will pull in that contact. And again, I can hit enter. And then that will the prompt will then enter the chat flow here. And Copilot will go ahead and give you some sort of information around that individual. In this situation, it couldn't find any information for the contact, but of course, if they are there in your CRM and you have a lot of data on them, it will start to present you with some of that data. So it will go through things like associated deal records, some of the tasks you might have set for that person, and so on. To go back into prompts, we'll have a look at sort of one more. So one of the things that, again, it can help you with that might be quite useful is reporting. So it can only do sort of single object reports at the moment, so you won't get massively detailed sort of reports out of this for now. But we can go ahead and just ask it to generate a report. Again, there's some bits we want to fill in here for what we actually want to produce here. So I'll choose contacts. So it's going to create a report of contacts. And we can actually ask it sort of how we want to group it by. So I'll just go with created this year. And again, we can enter this year here. We can go ahead and enter that. And again, this should now produce us a report, simply just giving us the number of contacts that have actually just been created this year within the account. So again, for things like this, it might take a little bit longer. But there you go. It's now produced us a report here. It says we've got a total of 4 contacts created in January, 6 contacts in February, and it's kind of put that into a table for us. We can go ahead and jump to the report builder here as well if we wanted to sort of tweak this further from that point. So that's a very quick look at Copilot. Of course, there are loads more prompts that we could have explored in there, and I would definitely sort of suggest that you do so. But what I'll do is jump back into our presentation, and we'll start to go through some of the brief agents instead. So like I mentioned, the agents are almost, you can think of them almost like another sort of employee that you can sort of pull in, and it starts to work for you on a specific task that, of course, we sort of want automating. And the first one we're going to have a look at is the customer agent. So the customer agent actually uses HubSpot content or public URLs that you kind of train it on, and it kind of acts like a chatbot, and it draws on that information that you've fed into it to actually then produce, of course, some answers for any of the questions that someone might have for a chatbot. So, like I said, the agent needs to be trained on content, and of course, you're going to be sort of training on information you would actually want it to use in its answers. So this could be, you know, a URL, it could be one of your HubSpot landing pages, or this could be a blog, for example, that focuses on the sort of elements that you'd like it to produce as answers. The nice thing is you can go ahead and preview the agent and actually check if it is giving the accurate information you were expecting. And then just like with sort of a live chat or a chat bot, you can then go ahead and embed this on a web page where it will just be there to sort of help with sort of FAQ style questions, or if anyone just wants additional information without necessarily navigating the entire website. So again, let's not sort of look at it on a slide. Let's go in and actually have a look at the customer agent inside of HubSpot. So again, you should now be seeing a HubSpot page, and we're inside of the customer agent. Now, this is one of those features that you will have to sort of opt in to be part of the public beta in order to access right now. But if you go ahead and do so, you'll then have access to the screen that you're seeing here. So this behaves sort of in between a bit of a hybrid of a live chat functionality, but also in between sort of a chatbot where you have to create all of the different steps. And it does actually give you the option, if it can't answer the question, to actually pass that on to one of your team to engage in a live chat as well. So it doesn't just sort of leave people hanging with no answers. Like I said, once you've just sort of started to build this, you've got the preview. You can actually use the chatbot as if you were sort of on the website. So you can ask it questions. You can check that sort of the standard sort of FAQ style questions that you kind of expect it to be able to answer, that it can, and of course make improvements and kind of test in this space here. What you will have to do first is side off the content tab is actually give it some content, train it on some of your content that includes the information that you want it to be able to give people when they answer these types of questions. So what you can do is include knowledge bases, you can include websites, landing pages, blogs, and any files in here as well. So they're sort of the mediums you can use to train it on this data. All you would do is in the top right where it says add content, you would go ahead and actually sort of include the HubSpot content, the links to files, or you can actually give it some short answers, sort of like as a pre-programmed response for any particular questions. Then once you've gone ahead and selected all those different elements, you'll see for each of them, it kind of breaks down the different knowledge bases that you've got and the articles within them. It breaks down the sort of web pages and the pages you've added and so on. And it'll also give you the status, whether or not that has been synced correctly as well. So you'll know that that piece of information has been ingested or trained by the AI. You'll also see a section for unused as well. So if you here we've got sort of a knowledge base where actually we've perhaps there's some unused articles that we didn't necessarily want in there, and at a future date we can go ahead and perhaps sync those in again, just to sort of give it a broader options for what it can sort of answer. What you've also got in here is the performance tab, which is a really nice place to come and have a look at once it is up and running on a web page. How is it actually performing? How many times has the AI had to hand off to one of your colleagues? How many conversions have actually sort of been resolved over how many total have been handled? How many unanswered questions you might have had? And then of course, if you include it in visitor feedback, sort of with a green, amber or red face on how well it did. So you can come in here and very much use that section as a way to inform you to actually improve what you're sort of training it on as well. Within the channels tab, this is where ultimately you're just assigning the agent to one of your existing channels. So this of course is linked up to your inbox tool. So whether or not you sort of already have an existing live chat or a chat bot, perhaps you would want to assign that agent to that particular channel. Or of course you could go ahead and create a new one just for the customer agent here. Within configuration as well, there's just some sort of general bits like the avatar image, the name, the role as well. So whether this is going to be more of a sort of salesy role, a servicey role, helping with sort of queries after the fact, or perhaps using this for marketing purposes as well. And then you can also set the personality from sort of 5 different options in here as well. Finally, you've also got the sort of handoff messages here. So if it does get to the point where the agent actually can't answer a question, it will go ahead and of course try and hand off to one of your colleagues, very much in a live chat format. But if they're sort of not there, or you're at capacity, or perhaps this is even outside of office hours, you can also sort of change the messaging that someone will receive as well. So again, that's a very sort of crash course on the customer agent, but it's very much there as sort of, like I said, a middle ground between setting up an overall chatbot where you have to pre-program every response, and actually a fully sort of live chat where you're probably answering the same questions a lot of the time throughout the use of that. So we'll jump back to the presentation. We'll have a look at one more of our agents here. So we want to go ahead and look at the content agent. So the content agent allows you to easily generate sort of 4 main areas or tools within HubSpot: landing pages, podcasts, case studies, and blogs. And all of these can be targeted to the relevant audience using sort of brand voice that we can leverage using the CRM data and of course some of the settings for the account as well. For each of the 4 options here, you'll be taken through what is a really easy sort of setup screen, which of course you can sort of change elements of after you've completed the setup. But what it was basically doing is just asking for information to just help the AI actually create sort of what you actually want, because it is creating this content from scratch. So you do need to give it some prompts and some ideas on ultimately what you actually want to see. Like I said, you can still change things after the fact, but of course this agent is a massive time saver, because especially things like blog writing and creating landing pages and podcasts very much in the same way, that they take a long time to create that content. There is an investment there, and of course a cost from your side. So having the AI sort of take control of some of that, and actually with some small prompts to actually develop kind of a whole blog or a whole podcast is a massive time saver. So again, we'll jump into having a look at a demo of this. So we'll come into the content agent screen within HubSpot here. This is where, again, you'll have to sort of opt in, as it's sort of a public beta tool at the moment, in order to sort of gain access to it. And then when we're in here, we kind of get the choice, like I said, between sort of the 4 mediums here: landing pages, podcasts, case studies, or a blog post. So let's go ahead and have a look at creating a blog post, as it's sort of very long form written content that can take a while to sort of come up with. So when initially you sort of click into that, it will take you through to the tool, and then it will pop up with the sort of preview window here for starting to build out what this blog is going to include. And what you'll get generated at the top here is some recommendations on sort of titles or sort of content ideas. You can go ahead and show more ideas if you sort of don't want to do any of these ones. And of course, you do actually have the sort of free text box below that to describe anything else that you'd actually like to do. So you don't have to use one of the recommendations. You can use the free text box, like with the example here, to just describe what this blog article ultimately is going to be about. I'll go ahead and use one of the suggestions. As you can see, it then just pulls that prompt into the free text box, where we could continue to add to that if we wanted to. You've then got the option, you don't have to include sort of search engine optimized keywords. Again, it will just help your sort of blog rank higher on Google, and of course be targeted to some of the keywords you're going after. Of course, sort of country of target audience will go with UK. And then you'd just be choosing which blog hosting page you're actually publishing that to, and which industry is this content sort of tailored towards. You can also go into the customized details section and include an ideal customer profile, which is something you can set up inside of the AI settings. We'll then go ahead and select the title here. Based on everything we've just kind of given it, it will generate us some titles. Now, the really good thing about this is you will start to get the sort of how easy it is to actually rank in search, and also sort of how many monthly searches have happened using Google's analytics, to actually sort of get a bit of an idea of whether or not that blog title is really going to show up anywhere. So you're kind of balancing how many times has that been searched versus actually how difficult is it to rank highly on the search engines, and as well if there are any sort of keywords that we did enter. Again, it will give us a bit of data on whether or not that is something people are really interested in. So again, you can show more if you're not happy with any of these, but generally speaking, these 3 are going to be sort of the best 3 that it gives you, and you would just be selecting one of these from the list. We then get through to another optional section here, which is to go ahead and add some sort of documentation. So this could include, a body of text you'd like to include in the blog. It could be images, transcripts. You can even do videos in here as well, just giving HubSpot some content, to make your blog sort of as you wanted it to be. But you don't have to. So we'll actually have a look at what it comes up with if we don't give it that prompt. The last sort of step here is simply just reviewing the blog outline. So some of the sort of key sections that it's going to create. So it pulls in the description for you. Again, you can change this, but it will be based very much on sort of all the information we've given it. You can tick whether or not you want to include an AI generated image within the blog post. So the generative AI models can create an image from scratch for us. So if we were talking about something with education, we could generate perhaps a sports field, a classroom, something relevant to the blog. And then it will also give you a description, or it will give you the chance to give a sort of description of what that image should look like. But again, it will pull that in for you based on the content. You then got all the different paragraph headers. So in here, it will pull out some sort of talking points and ultimately kind of how it's going to break down the blog article. But again, you can add additional talking points in here. You can remove any of these or regenerate any of these headers using the sort of X and the regen button on the right, and you can add additional bits here as well. So you still have a lot of control over this, but let's just see what it produces when we just sort of leave it to do its thing. So what it will do is then go ahead and generate that blog post. Again, depending on sort of internet connection and how much you've actually given it here, this will of course take a couple of seconds, and it will just go through, like I said, creating imagery, creating the text and the overall sort of outline for the blog. Of course, it will pull in the sort of menu and colors and fonts that you have set as your blog hosting page template, so you don't have to go ahead and edit all of the different sort of elements that you're used to for your blog hosting page. But everything after that is kind of going to be then, generated by the AI. So we've got sort of the section titles, we've got an AI generated image in here, is added sections where we can jump into looking at more if we wanted to add additional sort of drop down elements. And as you can see there, it's kind of gone through with the headers that it kind of planned out, and it's written sort of bits of content in there as well. Also prompts you to add a call to action, just like the sort of normal blog tool does. So again, you can go in there and add one of your own buttons, perhaps, meeting links, whatever it is. And then of course, you'll still get, like I said, the blog hosting page sort of template with all of your sort of related articles and other bits, footers and so on. So what I'll also want to very quickly jump into is having a look at the podcasts tool. Now, I know podcasts are generally not something that we see a lot of our clients do, but I think with this, it's possibly something that we want to start thinking about. So I won't go ahead and show you the full process because podcasts do take a number of minutes to actually go ahead and generate. So after I've gone through all of the prompts, it takes you very much like you just did with blogs through that sort of setup screen. You end up with your sort of episode, your podcast episode here. So what it actually produces is sort of clear sections, just like I did with the blog. So we've got our introduction here, so sort of fully typed out. And now what we can actually do is have HubSpot's AI voice, and you can choose from a number of different voices, actually, speak the content. It can actually be the host of the podcast. Alternatively, of course, it's essentially generated a script where you can go ahead, use that, record your own voice and publish the podcast that way. But if podcast is something that you just don't have time to do, but you'd love to do, then perhaps looking at this option is a really good option for you. So again, each section is sort of its own. Again, it has voice, so you can kind of create a back and forth and almost make it seem like there's two people on the podcast as well. And of course, come in at any point and edit the text here and move around the sections. But ultimately, what it's done is generate an entire sort of paragraph upon paragraph for a podcast, and then you can listen to the full episode back as well. And of course, continue to add your own elements. Within the episode details, it can also generate, of course, things like the title, the episode's description, again, an AI image for sort of the thumbnail. And then again, it can also generate the transcript for you, which is great. So of course, if people are hard of hearing, they can actually read what you've said. And of course, that also means that the SEO really likes that type of accessible content. And then after the fact, of course, you can go ahead and publish your episode. So I'm going to take a breath and go back into the presentation. That was a very quick sort of crash course, those bits that I wanted to go through. So I'll pass it back over to Amy to just finish us off with the last few slides.
Yes, perfect. So actually, I would have opened the Q&A, but due to timings, I will leave that section. But please do not hesitate to get in touch with any of us here at HubGem. There will be an email on the recording, or the emails you're getting sent out tomorrow, along with all of these fantastic resources that you can go into. They will all be on the email, like I said, given tomorrow along with the recording, and we are happy to answer any questions. So please do get in touch then. If we just jump quickly, Ollie, yeah, we've got our marketing and missions blog on the HubGem site, along with our Hub LinkedIn user group. So that's a great way to kind of network with other organisations in the industry for any other questions. If we can't maybe answer it, if you want to jump on there, pop your question on, hopefully somebody else can. It's a great wee community. So yeah, do that. Also, yeah, sorry, I'm babbling on about time. We will leave it there for you today. So thank you everybody for attending. And yeah, look out for our upcoming hugs. Thank you.